The stars of the Milky Way had never seemed so calm, yet the silence hid centuries of neglect, arrogance, and forgotten promises. On Earth, humanity had been watching the galaxy for decades, quietly building fleets, colonies, and technologies the older civilizations dismissed as primitive. Centuries ago, the galactic Concord, an alliance of powerful alien species, had borrowed resources, technology, and knowledge from humans. Promises were made to repay the debt once humanity entered the stars. But when the humans finally achieved spaceflight, the Concord had simply laughed and ignored them, erasing all records of the agreement. On Earth, humans did not forget. In the orbiting city of Sol Authority Station, Ambassador Marcus Hale stood before a viewport, staring into the black ocean of space. The stars were bright, distant, and silent witnesses to the patience of his people. "It is time," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. Behind him, his aides and advisors, humans and alien defectors alike, were preparing for the first contact with the Concord Council in centuries. The humans were ready. Their ships were faster, stronger, and more technologically advanced than anything the Concord had seen. Yet Marcus knew that force alone was not enough. Patience, cunning, and precision were just as important as firepower. Across the galaxy, the Concord Council gathered in the floating palace of Alaris Prime. Their chambers gleamed with metals that had been mined from hundreds of worlds, and alien voices echoed in a cacophony of arrogance and amusement. A sleek, blue-scaled diplomat of the Thar Dominion waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Humans? They have sent an ambassador? Ha! They are still primitive, barely able to leave their planet. This is absurd." Other counselors nodded, their own disdain evident. The humans were a joke, a curiosity, a species to be humored at best. No one suspected that the so-called primitive species that had once supplied the Concord with wealth and technology was now a force to be reckoned with. Marcus Hale walked into the council chambers with calm determination. He was unarmed, his demeanor steady. As he approached the podium, a ripple of polite curiosity spread through the alien delegates. He raised his hands in greeting. "Honorable members of the Concord Council," Marcus began, his voice quiet but firm. "I come representing the people of Earth. Centuries ago, your ancestors borrowed from mine. They promised repayment. Those promises remain unfulfilled. We have come to collect." A wave of laughter erupted. Some counselors guffawed, others chuckled, and a few shook their heads in disbelief. "Collect? From humans?" sneered an Avex scholar, her feathered face twisting into amusement. "You think your primitive planet can force us to honor agreements made centuries ago?" Marcus's expression did not change. He waited for the laughter to fade before continuing. "We are not here to argue," he said simply. "We are here to settle the debt. The galaxy may have forgotten, but humanity remembers. And we do not forgive easily." The council erupted into shouts. Delegates banged their tables, some standing to assert their dominance, but Marcus remained composed. He had expected this. He had studied their arrogance, their pride, and their disbelief. They did not know patience like humans did. Outside the council, the first human fleets began moving in subtle patterns across the Concord border. Not a single weapon had been fired, yet entire systems would soon notice the change. Supply routes shifted. Human freighters, silent and efficient, began delivering essential goods to Concord colonies. Energy, medicine, and metals appeared from nowhere under Terran control, at prices impossible to ignore. Back on Earth, Commander Elena Cruz monitored the fleets from the Sol Authority Bridge. "The Council thinks we are weak," she said to her officers. "They will learn. They always do." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rykos, nodded. "They can laugh all they want, but when they see what humanity has built, they will stop laughing fast." It was a quiet start, but it was the beginning of a reckoning that would echo across the galaxy. Weeks passed. The humans did not attack. They did not declare war. Instead, they moved with precision, quietly collecting influence. On the trade, Planet of Ural Prime, Terran freighters began supplying goods faster and cheaper than conquered merchants could manage. Citizens of Ural Prime, once loyal to the Concord, began asking for Terran products, medicine, and technologies. The market shifted subtly but unmistakably. On the mining moon of Varex, entire facilities switched from Concord control to human corporations. Alien miners marveled at the efficiency, the fair pay, and the new safety standards. In a matter of days, a world that had been exploited for decades now saw humans as benefactors rather than invaders. The Concord ignored it. Or at least they tried. Inside the council chambers, debates grew heated. These humans are clever, Councillor Var admitted reluctantly. They do not strike like conquerors. They strike where it hurts, quietly, without bloodshed. And yet, our influence is slipping. They cannot last, sneered another. They are still children compared to us. Their fleets are strong, but nowhere near enough to confront the Concord. Yet privately, many councillors whispered their fear. If the humans could manipulate trade and influence with such ease, what would they do if provoked? Marcus Hale, back on his flagship Resolute, did not need to provoke them. Patience was a weapon. The Concord's arrogance was its weakness. On a quiet colony in the edge of human space, a young alien child named Tira watched a Terran engineer repair a complex energy system. "Why do the humans help us?" she asked her father, a Concord soldier stationed on the colony. Her father looked uneasy. Because they remember. And one day they may ask for something in return." Tira frowned. "Do they want to hurt us?" He shook his head slowly. "No, not yet. But humanity never forgets. And when they come for what they are owed, the galaxy will feel it." Even on distant worlds, the simple phrase spread quietly, among citizens, merchants, and soldiers alike. Humanity remembers. Meanwhile, the human fleets continued to expand their reach. Freighters delivered vital resources to the smallest Concord outposts. Scientists shared medical breakthroughs that eradicated diseases the Concord had struggled with for centuries. Engineers repaired energy grids, built infrastructure, and optimized trade systems. The humans were silent rulers, not through violence but through influence, and everywhere they went the message was the same: a debt is a debt. It must be honored. In private meetings, Marcus Hale laid out the next phase of humanity's plan. Admiral Carver and Commander Cruz leaned over the star maps projected across the bridge of the Resolute. "Phase 2 begins when they refuse to comply," Marcus said. "But patience comes first. They will test us, they will mock us, but they will see that humans never forget." Carver nodded. "And when we strike, it will be precise, efficient, merciless but fair." Marcus's eyes were steady, unflinching. "It is not about mercy or cruelty. It is about justice. Centuries of dismissal, ignorance, and mockery end now. Humanity collects what is owed." Back at the Concord Council, the laughter had died down, replaced with unease. Delegates whispered, recalculated, and argued among themselves. Some suspected that the humans were bluffing, but others, those with long memories, knew better. They remembered the early exchanges, the treaties, the promises. Humanity did not forget. Weeks turned into months, and still, humanity's methods remained peaceful but powerful. Conquered trade routes shifted subtly. Citizens began preferring Terran goods, and colonies quietly realigned their loyalties. The Iomba galaxy watched in disbelief as a species once considered primitive reshaped the balance of power without firing a single shot. Marcus Hale stood once more before the viewport on the Resolute, looking out into the vast expanse of stars. "They laughed at us," he said softly, "and they will regret it. The galaxy will learn what it means to owe humanity, and when the time comes, they will understand the weight of a debt unpaid." Outside, Terran ships glided silently through the blackness, a fleet of precision, patience, and inevitability. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but humanity did. The Concord laughed at the human request. To them, it was just a joke. A small species from a small planet asking the oldest civilizations of the galaxy to pay some forgotten debt. The council chambers rang with alien voices mocking the human ambassador as he stood tall, his hands folded calmly behind his back. But when the laughter faded and the humans left without another word, something strange began to happen. It began quietly, almost without notice. On the trade world of Ural Prime, merchants discovered that the energy crystals shipped from human colonies were cheaper and more stable than the crystals from the Concord's biggest supplier. Within weeks, whole cities on Ural Prime were running on human power sources. The Concord dismissed it as coincidence. On the mineral-rich moon of Varex, human companies bought up entire mining operations overnight. The aliens working there were shocked to find their pay doubled and their working conditions improved. Workers spread the news, and soon thousands were requesting jobs under human ownership. Again, the Concord dismissed it. But these were not accidents. This was design. Humanity was patient. For centuries, they had been ignored, humiliated, and told they were too primitive to matter. Now they were moving with purpose, but not with guns or battleships. Not yet. Instead, they attacked with something far more dangerous: patience, numbers, and knowledge of how the galaxy worked. Ambassador Marcus Hale sat in his office aboard the Sol Authority Embassy Station, orbiting Earth. Reports flooded in every day. His staff, both human and alien defectors, tracked every transaction, every ship movement, every market collapse. "They are still laughing at us in the Council," said Commander Lyra, his military aide. "They do not understand what we are doing." Marcus smiled faintly. "They don't need to understand, not yet. They only need to feel it." And feel it they did. Soon, entire sectors of the Concord economy were dependent on human goods. Human medicine, once dismissed as primitive, proved shockingly effective against diseases alien doctors had struggled with for centuries. Colonies lined up for trade. Human freight companies offered delivery times the Concord fleets could not match, backed by AI-guided logistics. It wasn't long before alien leaders began to whisper among themselves. Why are our markets failing? Why are my citizens demanding human goods? Why are we losing money while the humans gain? They tried intimidation. A fleet of Concord warships patrolled the borders of human space. Alien admirals broadcast warnings, telling humans to stop their economic games or face sanctions. But when Concord warships blocked human freighters, something unexpected happened. The freighters simply rerouted, delivering goods through hidden jump routes no one thought humans could map. Even Concord citizens began bribing their own admirals just to let human shipments through. The Council was furious. "They mock us," shouted Councillor Var, a scaled reptilian from the Thar Dominion. "They think they can shame us with trade tricks. Let us teach them what true power is." Others agreed, but not all. Some remembered the words of the human ambassador. "We've come to collect." They began to wonder if this was just the beginning. Meanwhile, humanity watched and waited. In the massive trade hub of Ceres Station, Captain Elena Cruz walked the market floor. She wore a plain uniform, her hair tied back, her voice steady as she spoke with alien merchants. "Your old supplier is charging you double for food rations, yes? We'll sell it to you for half the price and guarantee faster delivery." The alien merchant blinked in surprise. "Half the price? How?" Elena smiled. "Because we don't waste. Because we don't lie. Because we remember our promises." The merchant signed without hesitation. Every deal was a strike. Every trade was a blade. Humanity was cutting the Concord apart without firing a single shot. But the Concord was not blind. In the council chambers, the debates grew heated. Some species demanded war. Others urged caution. And a few, the wiser few, said something the rest did not want to hear. The humans are not weak. They are waiting. Weeks turned into months. Entire Concord colonies fell under quiet human influence. People demanded human products, human medicine, human security. On some worlds, the Concord flag still flew, but the people whispered a different word with respect and fear: Terran. One night, In a quiet chamber aboard the human flagship Resolute, Marcus met with his closest advisors. "They mock us still," said Commander Lyra, "but we have them in our grip." Marcus nodded slowly. "And when the time comes to tighten that grip, they will understand." He paused, staring at the stars beyond the window. "For centuries they erased our history. They laughed at our pain. But debt is debt, and the universe has a memory. Soon, they will remember us." And so the galaxy entered a strange silence. Pure. Concord, once proud and confident, grew restless. Their fleets hovered near human borders but never crossed. Their markets collapsed one by one. Their citizens turned against them, demanding more from the humans. The humans said little, but everywhere they went, they spoke the same quiet phrase: "We've come to collect." The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, began to feel something it had never felt toward humanity before: fear. The galaxy had grown uneasy. The whispers of humanity's quiet power spread from system to system. Concord fleets watched human borders, but they never crossed. Merchants still bought human goods in secret, and colonies still asked for human medicine. The Concord tried to control the storm, but the storm only grew stronger. Then at last, someone broke. It happened in the Valar system. The Valar Dominion was proud and arrogant, a warrior race with long memories of conquest. To them, humans were nothing more than opportunistic traders. They would not bow to a species they considered children. So when a convoy of 10 human freighters crossed through Valar space, the Dominion took its chance. The freighters were unarmed, carrying medicine and food for a Concord colony that had secretly signed trade deals with Earth. To the Valar, this was treason. Their warships surrounded the freighters, and their commander broadcast his message across the system: "Humans, you think yourselves clever, selling your goods in our markets, stealing our wealth. You forget your place. Today the Dominion teaches you respect." The message ended with the roar of weapons fire. The freighters never stood a chance. They were destroyed in minutes, their crews lost to the void. The Valar fleet celebrated, believing they had shown the galaxy that humans were weak, but humanity did not mourn in silence. Humanity answered. News reached Earth within hours. In the Sol Authority command chamber, generals, admirals, and diplomats stood around a glowing map of the stars. The Valar Dominion's attack was not just an insult, it was blood-spilled. "Ambassador," Marcus Hale spoke first, his voice calm but his eyes hard. "They have made their choice. They refused the debt and they murdered our people. The time for patience is over. Now we show them what it means to owe humanity." Admiral Juno Carver, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet, leaned forward. "Permission to strike, Ambassador?" Marcus nodded once. "Strike, Admiral, but not for conquest, not for glory. Strike to collect." The humans moved with terrifying precision. Within a week, fleets of sleek Terran warships entered the Valar system. They did not announce themselves. They did not broadcast threats. They came like ghosts, slipping past sensors, disabling defenses before alarms could sound. The Valar fleet, proud from its recent victory, rushed to intercept. Dozens of warships faced the Terran fleet, confident they would crush the humans as easily as they had destroyed the freighters. But when the first battle began, the galaxy learned how wrong they were. Human ships did not fight like Concord ships. Concord battles were slow, filled with heavy weapons and brute strength. Humans fought with speed, precision, and terrifying efficiency. A Valar battleship launched a volley of plasma torpedoes. The Terran destroyer Horizon twisted in space, dodging every shot, and returned fire with railguns that tore through the enemy shields in seconds. Another Terran ship fired EMP bursts, frying the Valar ship's targeting systems. The battle lasted less than an hour. When the dust cleared, the Valar fleet was broken, not destroyed, disabled. Engines dead, weapons useless, crews alive but humiliated. Humanity had shown mercy, but not weakness. Then came the second strike. Human fleets did not stop at the warships. They moved into the Valar's home system, targeting infrastructure. Power grids collapsed as human cyber warfare teams slipped into their networks. Communications died. Their food shipments vanished. redirected by human-controlled AI systems. Just 3 days, the mighty Valar Dominion was on its knees. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The conquered had expected humans to answer with anger and messy war. Instead, humanity had shown something far more dangerous: discipline. They didn't waste lives, they didn't destroy worlds, they didn't conquer for pride. They simply crippled the enemy, then stood waiting. In the council chambers, representatives shouted at each other in disbelief. How did they do this? They were supposed to be primitive. They defeated an entire Dominion fleet in hours. Others whispered in fear. If they can do this to the Valar, what will they do to us? Meanwhile, on the surface of Valar Prime, the proud Dominion, leaders sat in darkness. Their power grids were still down, their fleets useless. Then the humans arrived. Ambassador Marcus Hale himself landed on the planet, escorted by a small squad of Terran Marines. He walked calmly into the council hall of the Valar, unarmed, his boots echoing on the stone floor. The Valar High Warlord, scales glistening in the dim light, growled at him. "You dare come here after what you have done?" Marcus looked him straight in the eye. "What we have done? You murdered our people, you broke the law of debt. We did not come for conquest. We came to collect." He placed a small data tablet on the table. The screen displayed records of the Concorde's centuries-old promises to humanity. It also displayed the price of the freighters the Valar had destroyed and the lives lost. "This is what you owe," Marcus said simply. "You will pay it," the High Warlord snarled. "And if we refuse?" Marcus leaned forward, his voice calm but cold. "Then your dominion will not exist tomorrow." The silence in the chamber was heavy. The Valar leaders, once proud and unbending, now felt the weight of true fear. They saw in the humans' eyes not hatred, but resolve. This was not a man seeking revenge. This was a man representing a species that never forgot a debt. Finally, the High Warlord lowered his head. "We will pay." Marcus nodded once. "Good. Remember this moment. Remember what happens when you break your word to humanity." The surrender of the Valar Dominion shocked the galaxy. Entire systems fell quiet, their people whispering the same words. Never owe a human. The Concord Council could no longer laugh. They could no longer mock. Humanity had shown its hand, and it was stronger, sharper, and more disciplined than anyone imagined. But Marcus Hale knew this was only the beginning. The Valar were just the first. There were many more debts to collect, and the galaxy would learn one by one what it truly meant to cross humanity. He stood aboard the Resolute, watching the stars stretch before him. "Patience brought us here," he said softly to Admiral Carver. "But now the galaxy will feel the first blow, and they will never forget it." The Admiral gave a small, grim smile. "No, Ambassador, they will dread us." The fall of the Valar Dominion spread like wildfire across the stars. The story was told in every market, every shipyard, every colony. 10 human freighters destroyed, an entire human fleet striking back, and one of the galaxy's proudest warrior. Races forced to kneel in less than a week. At first, the Concord Council tried to control the news. They told their people that the Valar had surrendered voluntarily, that the humans had exaggerated their strength. But rumors could not be silenced. Soldiers whispered of Valar warships drifting powerless. Traders spoke of human fleets appearing, like ghosts cutting supply lines with terrifying precision. Citizens of the Concord asked a single question that shook their leaders. If the humans can do this to the Valar, what can they do to us? On Ural Prime, the largest trade world in the Concord, alien merchants once laughed at human goods. Now, they lined up to buy them. A merchant from the insectoid Zax clans whispered to her partner, "Pay them quickly. We cannot risk angering them." On the moon of Varax, miners who once worked under the Concord now refused to sign contracts unless the company was human-owned. "The Terrans keep their word," one miner said proudly. "The Concord cheats us. Never again." On the colony of Trelvaris, parents begged human doctors to heal their children. Alien medicine had failed for years, but Terran treatments worked. When the children recovered, The people of Trelvaris shouted openly in the streets, "Terran saved us!" Everywhere, respect for the humans grew, but with it came something darker: fear. In the Concord Council chambers, the atmosphere was heavy. Once, the halls had been filled with arrogant laughter when the humans came to demand their debt. Now, the councillors spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously. Councillor Var of the Thar Dominion slammed his clawed fist against the table. "We must stop them now. If we wait any longer, they will own the galaxy." Councillor Rill, a feathered scholar from the Avex Confederacy, shook her head. "You saw what they did to the Valar. Their technology is advanced, but it is their strategy that frightens me. They strike with precision. They disable but do not destroy. That is power with purpose. That is patience." Another councillor hissed in fear. "They are not like us. They are not conquerors. They are collectors." The room fell silent at that word. Collectors. Meanwhile, humanity continued its campaign. But they did not march with fleets through every star system. They did not burn cities or enslave worlds. Instead, they chose their targets carefully. On the wealthy world of Draxis, the Concord's banking hub, humans froze accounts overnight. Entire fortunes vanished, rerouted into Terran-controlled vaults. The Draxis bankers screamed in outrage, but when they demanded answers, the Terrans simply presented old agreements showing Draxis investments in human industries centuries ago. On the industrial world of Korvath, conquered factories went dark as Terran corporations bought up entire supply chains. Ships could not be built without human metals. Engines could not run without human fuel. On the frontier world of Solara, pirates who once preyed on human colonies were hunted down by Terran fleets. But instead of killing them, the humans offered them contracts. Within months, the pirates flew under Terran flags, escorting convoys instead of raiding them. Every move was precise. Every move was cold. The galaxy began to understand. Humans were not seeking to conquer territory. They were seeking to control the galaxy's pulse, its economy, its lifeblood, its future. Ordinary citizens felt the change first. In marketplaces, merchants whispered, "Pay the Terrans what they are owed." In factories, workers muttered, "If the Terrans take over, we will be paid fairly." In homes, parents warned their children, "Never lie to a human. They never forget." The phrase spread like a curse across the stars. Never owe a human. Admiral Juno Carver stood aboard, the Resolute, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers glowed where debts were still owed. Green markers showed worlds that had already paid, willingly or by force. "We are halfway there," she said to Ambassador Marcus Hale. "The conquered is crumbling." Marcus folded his hands behind his back. His voice was calm, but there was no joy in it. "It is not conquest, Admiral. It is justice. For centuries they mocked us. They thought patience was weakness. Now they learn patience is a weapon sharper than any blade." Carver smirked faintly. "And fear is the wound it leaves behind." In the shadow of this fear, cracks appeared within the Concord itself. Some species openly defied the Council, declaring loyalty to the humans. Others begged the Council to make peace before it was too late. A few desperate leaders sent fleets toward Terran borders, but those fleets never returned, not destroyed, disabled, their crews sent home alive but shaken. One alien commander described it best in a report. "The humans fought us without anger, without cruelty. They took our ships, our weapons, our pride. Then they let us live. That mercy was worse than death. Because now every time I close my eyes, I see their ships waiting in the dark, calm and patient, ready to strike again." On the colony of Janos, a young alien girl asked her father, "Why do the humans come?" The father looked down at her and answered softly, "Because long ago we borrowed from them and we never gave it back." The child's eyes widened. "Will they hurt us?" The father shook his head slowly. "No, child. That is not their way. But they will make us pay. And that is worse." The weight of fear grew heavier each day. No one dared mock the humans anymore. No one dared laugh at the thought of their debt. The Valor had laughed, and the Valor had fallen. Now when a human fleet entered a system, the people did not resist. They opened their ports, offered their wealth, begged to settle their accounts before the Terrans took more. And humanity, patient and relentless, accepted it all. In the council chambers, the debates ended in silence. Every counselor had seen the truth. Every counselor had heard the whispers of their people. Counselor Rill said it aloud, her feathers trembling. We used to call them primitive, but perhaps it is we who were primitive, for humans are not just another species. They are something else, something the galaxy has never faced before. No one argued. For the first time in history, the conquered council, the proud rulers of 1,000 worlds, sat in silence and fear of one small blue planet. Aboard the Resolute, Marcus Hale stood once more before the stars. His voice was calm as he spoke to his officers. The galaxy is learning, he said. They thought us weak. Now they understand. Debt is not forgotten. Debt is not forgiven. Debt is collected. He turned, his eyes cold but steady. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, species had laughed at humanity. They had called humans primitive, weak, and slow to expand. They had forgotten the promises they made, ignored debts, and dismissed the tiny blue planet as inconsequential. Now, every corner of the conquered and beyond knew the truth. Humans were patient, clever, and relentless, and they had come to collect. The Concord Council, the proud assembly of the galaxy's oldest and strongest civilizations, sat in unprecedented silence. Their chambers, once filled with laughter and debate, were now tense and heavy with fear. Representatives whispered nervously. Every message, every report, every rumor of Terran fleets reaching new systems left them more uneasy. The Valar Dominion had already fallen. Systems across the conquered were paying their debts, but the Council itself had yet to surrender. Councillor Var slammed his clawed hand against the table. We will not bow. We are the oldest. We are the strongest. Humans cannot dictate terms. To us, Councillor Rill, feathers trembling, shook her head. Var, they already dictate terms. We are behind the curve. They have calculated every move. We cannot stop them. The room fell silent. The truth was undeniable. Humanity's reach had extended farther than any Concord fleet. Every debt collector, every fleet movement, every trade conquest had one purpose: to show the galaxy that humans did not forgive and they did not forget. On Earth, Ambassador Marcus Hale watched the reports pour in. Every planet paying its dues, every system surrendering, every leader trembling before the evidence of Terran strength. It all unfolded with meticulous precision. This is it, he said quietly to Admiral Juno Carver, standing beside him on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. The final collection, Carver nodded, eyes scanning the data screens. The Council itself. This is where it ends. Marcus's gaze remained calm. Yes, but this is also where they learn the full lesson. They will understand humanity is not to be trifled with. The Terran fleets moved with the precision of a single mind. Hundreds of ships, spanning multiple classes, emerged at once from hyperspace above the Concord capital system. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They simply positioned themselves where every leader could see them. The Council, watching from orbit, trembled. Thousands of sensors tracked the massive human armada, perfectly organized, perfectly coordinated. Every fleet was armed and ready, yet there was no aggression. And that was what terrified them most. A single message broadcast. Across the system, in all known languages, clear and calm. We have come to collect. The time has come to honor your debts. The Conquered Council owes humanity what was promised centuries ago. Payment is due. The counselors exchanged nervous glances. Some thought to resist. Some considered fleeing. But as they looked at the ships, at the precision, at the unblinking silence of humanity's might, doubt crept into every mind. No one dared make the first move. On the surface of the capital planet, the citizens watched from their windows as Terran ships hovered above their cities. Every child, every adult, every soldier, every diplomat understood one truth. Humanity's patience was infinite, but their resolve was absolute. Marcus Hale descended to the planet, escorted by a small Terran security team. His steps were calm, measured and deliberate as he entered the council chambers. Every representative rose, fear etched on their faces. "Ambassador," Var snarled. "You come to mock us?" Marcus's voice was quiet but carried the weight of centuries. "Mockery has nothing to do with it. We come to collect what was promised. The debt of the Concord to humanity is clear. The evidence is undeniable. The time for excuses is over." He laid a data tablet on the council table. It contained centuries of contracts, signatures, transactions, and debts owed. Every claim was verified, every calculation precise. Counselor, Rill, normally composed, trembled as she scrolled through the evidence. This is centuries old. How did you—" Marcus raised a hand. "We waited. You ignored us. You mocked us. But debt is not forgotten. Debt is not forgiven. And now, it must be collected." Var's claws clenched. "And if we refuse, will you destroy us?" Marcus's expression did not change. Calm, unyielding. "We do not destroy. We collect. But if you refuse, then the consequences of your refusal will fall upon you. You will find no support, no allies, no sanctuary. The galaxy will remember that you refused humanity." The silence in the chamber was complete. The oldest, proudest council in the galaxy faced the smallest planet that had once been dismissed, and they realized, finally, how wrong they had been. One by one, the councilors signed the repayment agreements. Ships, resources, credits, and technologies were transferred to human oversight. Centuries-old debts, some nearly forgotten by time, were returned in full. It was not theft. It was justice. Outside the chamber, the galaxy watched. News spread across star systems in hours. The Concord had repaid humanity. The Valar had fallen. First, systems across the galaxy had followed. Now the council itself had bowed. Citizens, traders, soldiers, and scholars whispered a single phrase that would echo for generations. "Never owe a human." Marcus Hale returned to the Resolute, standing once more before the stars. Admiral Carver joined him, watching the ships fade into hyperspace after completing the collection. "It's done," she said quietly. "The galaxy has learned." Marcus nodded, his gaze distant. "Not just learned. They have felt it. They have felt patience, discipline, precision, and resolve. They have felt what it means to cross humanity." Carver smiled faintly. "And they will never forget it." Marcus's lips curved into the faintest smile. "No. Never. And that is how humanity survives. Not by conquest, not by war, but by remembering, by enduring, by collecting what is owed." The stars stretched before them, endless and silent. Humanity had shown the galaxy its strength, and from that day forward, civilizations across the stars would respect one simple truth: a human is patient, a human is clever,